After 7 years of selling on Etsy, I've made the incredibly tough decision to quit.
Etsy has been silently forcing sellers to offer free shipping on orders over $35. Starting in 2019, if you don't opt into the $35 free shipping deal, Etsy's algorithm will punish you by making it harder for your products to show up in the search results.
Much of Etsy's customer service is now automated, which, if you follow the news, this lines up with Etsy's mass layoff of around 225 employees.
After carefully considering the complex issues surrounding AI-generated content, we have decided to continue to allow sellers to use their original prompts in combination with AI tools to create the artwork they sell on Etsy. Well, there's a lot to unpack today. Today, I'm going to be talking about Etsy and the destruction and downfall of what was once a fantastic marketplace for artists and creatives to sell their handmade goods. Now, Etsy was founded on June 18th, 2005 as a marketplace with an emphasis on selling handmade and vintage goods. So things that were either handmade by an artist or crafter that they could then sell on the platform. Essentially meaning it was a place you could get kind of rare, obscure, unique items that you couldn't really find anywhere else. Obviously, very quickly over time, because it was such a unique place, it became increasingly popular. It blew up, expanded over the years. It was truly a very unique place that other websites tried to recreate but didn't quite make. I remember a few years ago, there was another one when I first started making like these little crappy charm things with like pictures on the back and like E6000 glue and like resin. I remember trying to sell on Etsy and at the time thinking, this is oversaturated, no one's buying my stuff. I remember trying a different website that was very similar, but had nowhere near like the real huge cult following of people on it. Now, in theory, Etsy has always been a fantastic place for artists, crafters, creatives, people, because it's a marketplace, essentially meaning if someone's searching for something specific, it will be a lot easier for them to find you and your products, your shop, than it would be for you to have your own website against millions and millions of listings on Google if someone was to search for the same thing. It was incredibly niche, and it's just, unfortunately, in recent times, it's changed significantly. And in today's video, I'm going to be exploring a lot of those issues, and I discovered a lot of things that I'm a little bit mad about. So please feel free to join me, sit, watch, get a snack, because I've spent the last few weeks researching a lot of this stuff, and there's some things that I did not know were a thing. Like, I am shocked, disappointed, and it's always been a joke that unless you're like the top 1% of artists selling their artwork, you're not really gonna be earning all that much. Like, the term that's coined broke artist, it's a thing because it's true. Like, so many people do art, but only the top probably 5% make enough to live off of, and the top 1% are the ones that are making bank, like big bucks, because they're selling, you know, bananas duct taped to a wall and stuff like that, you know, real art like that. I remember one of the first things I ever purchased from Etsy was from a seller called Caitlin Minimalist. She, as far as I'm aware, was one of the very first people to make something so incredibly unique. So she would make necklaces and rings and bracelets that basically she would like hand stamp with phrases and words and things like that. What was really cool about her is you could send her handwriting and she would stamp that onto a piece of jewelry. And now what's really heartwarming is like those top 1% of sellers now have their own platforms, their own websites where they sell their products. Like Caitlin Minimalist, for example, has a very, very professional website now where she still sells her products. She still sells on Etsy because Etsy's a huge part of her revenue, and so many artists that I admire, like Catnip, make a living on selling products on Etsy. They're huge sellers. But of course, these sellers that do so well then migrate over to their own websites so they can kind of get, you know, two different places at once. So during the pandemic in 2020, Etsy just completely exploded more than ever because people were not only selling their handmade masks, but people were buying them, which actually correlates to the fact that arts and crafts stores like Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby all did increasingly well that year too. Most of this is down to face masks and people making them, there being like a lack of them in the world. Shares in Etsy quadrupled in 2020. 11% of this was in fact related to the fact people were making masks. I mean, people were literally like cutting up their bed sheets and making masks and selling them on Etsy. It was a whole thing. And in the last few months of 2020, Etsy sold 24 million masks. A lot of the fact that Etsy did boom as much as it did in 2020 was because people were at home, they were bored, a lot of people were getting paid, a lot of people weren't getting paid, but people were just at home and they wanted something to do. They were sick of just doom and gloom all the time. So what do you do when you're doom and gloom? You create, because creating art, it's a form of therapy. However, it was around this time that I myself personally started to see a lot of videos on social media, and these videos involved people who were trying to make a quick buck using Etsy, and they were teaching other people how to do it. You know, people were like, oh, you want to make thousands of dollars sitting on your butt? Etsy, easy money, side hustle. To an extent, some of this was purely innocent, some of it was stupid, some of it was, you know, actually beneficial and was like a real thing. But a lot of these TikToks and Instagram Reels all involved using something like Canva, making up a basic design, then selling it on Etsy. And there is nothing wrong with this, especially if you spend a lot of time creating something of your own. What I personally had a problem with was taking an already made template on Canva, changing a couple of things about it, and then putting it on Etsy to sell. And this has been kind of debunked by YouTubers over time, like they've tried it themselves, whether that's just because they waited too long to do it when it wasn't like a huge thing, that I don't know. But what really was worse was when the AI videos started. There began to be countless videos on YouTube, TikTok that were promoting using AI to create AI-generated patterns that you could then sell on Etsy. And as you know, when you're typing into AI, the AI is the one that generates the actual image. You're just the one telling it what to do. And this was like a craze for a while. People were like, oh, you can make thousands of dollars doing this. This is huge. You can do all this stuff. It's great. You can use AI, utilize AI, and then you can sell it on Etsy. Etsy is supposed to be handmade for creatives, for people who make their own stuff. Etsy's not going to be for that. They're not really gonna be happy with something like that. Well, they don't care. There are people who spend days, if not weeks, designing their own patterns by hand. They're drawing it, creating them, spending so much time on them and selling them on Etsy. It's either a side hustle or they're making a full-time living selling their actual artwork. So now comes along this freaking tidal wave of people using AI to do the same thing, and the entire platform is getting oversaturated with these patterns because most people, most consumers literally can't tell when something is made with AI. They won't know. They have no idea. But it does get worse than this. This is like just the surface, okay? We haven't even gotten started yet. Now, if you followed me for any semblance of time, you'll know that I have made videos before purchasing products from Etsy, from small businesses, from sellers, featuring them on my channel. And I would say 9 times out of 10, every time I would make one of those videos, I would get an email or a message on Instagram from the person I'd purchased from, or a message from someone saying, thank you so much for featuring my product. And it always warmed my heart. But whenever I would make videos involving Etsy, I would get quite a lot of comments from people telling me, don't support Etsy, don't support Etsy. Basically, over time, Etsy has increased their fees. A lot of people, rightfully so, were pretty unhappy about it, especially when, you know, it's something you're selling and you're getting a chunk of money taken out. That I understood, but to me, it made no logical sense to just boycott Etsy entirely when there were people on there making a living or trying to feed their families, because the only person really suffering from boycotting Etsy, yes, Etsy to an extent, but it's the small businesses that are suffering. As long as I remembered, Etsy was always a 20 cents listing fee. So every product you list is 20 cents. And to this day, that still stands. It is still 20 cents a listing. But like eBay, who is also a complete ripoff, Etsy raised their fee from a 5% selling fee to a 6.5% selling fee, which doesn't sound a lot until you're selling something quite expensive. Then you're talking quite a good chunk of change. So understandably, people were upset about this change. A lot of people just didn't want to shop on Etsy anymore. And again, my reasoning for shopping on Etsy and featuring them in videos over the last couple of years was always related to, well, I want to help the small businesses on the platform. I don't agree with Etsy, but also those people don't have a choice to go anywhere else because they probably can't afford their own website. And this is where it starts to get messy. I think Etsy has been so laser focused on competing and being like Amazon that they've really lost their way. Sure, Amazon is a marketplace. You know, Amazon started off as a booksellers. They sold books. Now they sell frigging toilet paper. Like, you know, Amazon has adapted and changed to the times, and obviously many people hate Amazon. The fact that Etsy is trying to be Amazon is what is such a huge downfall, in my opinion. In recent years, I have found a lot of things on Etsy that are also sold on Amazon. Now, unfortunately on Etsy, there are a lot of companies, many based in China, who sell products, the same products they're listing on Etsy, to companies like Shein, Temu, and they say, hey, this is a handmade product, when it's not. Now in 2023, The Guardian actually published an article, the investigation by the consumer group, which found rogue sellers charging up to 7 times more than on other websites for the items, falsely claiming they were made by hand. One Etsy seller had 19 handmade items, handmade, on sale, but 6 were from Asda, 1 was from the furnishing retailer Dunelm, and 1 from B&M. In another case, even the seller with 105 items listed on Etsy was not real, with the profile picture associated with the account being a stock image of a woman wearing a suit. People are upcharging products because they think they can, because it says it's handmade. They're kind of making a mockery of handmade products because, yeah, handmade stuff is more expensive. Go figure, it was handmade. It was expensive for the person to make. It took their time. It wasn't just highly manufactured on equipment that took 5 seconds. Of course it's gonna be more expensive, but because Etsy is supposed to be for handmade, people are like fobbing off Etsy and being like, hey, look, this product's handmade. We can charge $20 for it instead of 50 cents on Temu or Shein for the same product. So while it's not Etsy's fault that these listings are being made, because obviously there's probably thousands and tens of thousands of listings made every single day, it is their fault with how they are handling this. Etsy are cracking down on these stores, yes, but it's not working because people are getting their genuine listings and shops ripped down, and then trying to get them back up again for a lot of people has been just an absolute nightmare. There are people online that say that they find the products on Etsy and then they find similar products on Shein. We all know that Shein has stolen work from artists before. This is a known thing. We've seen this. There's been lawsuits about it. They've stolen like product designs to make their own. So sometimes when someone sees something on Etsy and they also see it on Shein, it's hard to tell whether it's the same product from the same company pretending one is handmade. She created Popflex. She was huge in the YouTube space, still is. Her brand called Bloggalates it's massive, but then she went one step further, created Popflex, and now has a huge brand behind her of different products. She went so far as to get her, I believe it was her skirt design, trademarked, which is both expensive and a lengthy process because she found her design on Shein. So it's really hard again to say that product is the same on Shein as it is Etsy, or is the Etsy one actually handmade and the one on Shein is fake. And that's what sucks about the internet these days. So this is what's laughable to me about Etsy. It's literally on their website. It's been on their website for as long as I can remember. Keep commerce human. Etsy is the global marketplace for unique and creative goods. It's home to a universe of special, extraordinary items, from unique handcrafted pieces to vintage treasures. In a time of increasing automation, it's our mission to keep human connection at the heart of commerce. Okay, the mission to keep commerce human at the heart of commerce. Yeah, right. Okay, sure. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's why we built a place where creativity lives and thrives, because it's powered by people. Meanwhile, they laid off 200 employees and a lot of their stuff is automated by AI now. We help our community of sellers turn their ideas into successful businesses. Our platform connects them with millions of buyers looking for an alternative, something special with a human touch. Once again, human touch. How is AI the human touch? You typed on a keyboard. How is AI... okay, I'll talk about that. Now, this is something that I didn't really know was a thing on Etsy until more recently. I think to an extent it has a place, but I'm going to list the reasons why it really doesn't have a place on Etsy too. Print-on-demand printing, where the person making the design doesn't actually print the design on a t-shirt, on a product. It's far from the days of people making jewelry on Etsy, but it's okay if you at least made the design going on the t-shirt. Because Etsy does allow POD printing, the seller can, again, outsource what they're making to somebody else. So they're not physically touching really anything. And this can be really good, especially for people that don't have a lot of money, they don't have a lot of space, they're chronically ill, they don't, they might have arthritis in their hands, they're disabled, they don't have the ability to other than make the design or the artwork, buy the product, store the product, pay hundreds if not thousands of dollars to store blank t-shirts or blank products in their home, then pay for a press, pay for the design to be pressed, ship it out. They might not be able to leave their house. This is where I think that POD printing can be used for good and is beneficial for those kind of people. However, in a time where everything is supposed to be human commerce, to me it seems bizarre that Etsy are okay with letting people use AI, POD printing, and letting that be a thing. I will never understand people that say that AI artists are artists, or they're the same as artists who actually make their artwork. I'm gonna offend a lot of people by saying this, but AI is what has destroyed Etsy. And the reason why this is really such an issue is because at the end of the day, again, this is Etsy, not Amazon, not eBay, not just a print-on-demand website. This is supposed to be Etsy. This is supposed to be handmade stuff. The fact that there is a way to use AI and be completely hands-off with everything you're selling is so anti-handmade, I can't even begin. Human connection, but the computer does all the work. But then you have the issue of something called SVGs. If you've never heard of it, essentially it's a design that you buy, download, and then you yourself can use that design however you want. So take, for example, this image of a ghost. Someone has designed this. People can also put SVGs of AI made products for sure. Like, oh, AI, make a ghost for me. Here you go. Okay, now I'm going to sell it on Etsy. There are some people out there that do make these SVGs. And this is great for people that aren't necessarily artists, but want to make their own t-shirts. And some of these SVGs allow for licensing, which means that people can actually sell products with the SVGs on them to make money. Let's say I wasn't an artist. I type in ghost SVG on Etsy. Oh, I like that design. Oh, I can use it however I want. I can use it for commercial reasons. I download it. I print it on a shirt. I put a listing up on Etsy. You want to buy this t-shirt with a ghost on it. Done, right? That's what a lot of people tend to do. That's also why you find so many listings on Etsy with the exact same design on it, especially if you're going to Disney and you want like a Disney design. I will never understand how some of these designs pass, because supposedly Etsy is very on top of these things, but there's so many Disney designs on the platform that are like blatant copyright that are still on there. Like, I don't know how, but that's another issue. I found the original design by the shop Two Peaches Co. It's now on Amazon, Etsy, and there's other strangely similar designs. They're all just like blatant modifications of the same design. Now, this is where the line can get blurred, and whether it's allowed on Etsy or not is a thing. So Etsy are just very laser focused on it has to somehow be handmade. We don't care if you typed it in. We don't care if you made the design and someone else prints it, but you have to be involved somehow in something you sell on Etsy. So for example, someone buys an SVG, they download it, they upload it to a POD service. They are completely 100% hands-off. The design is photoshopped onto a picture of a t-shirt. They never see the design. They never press the design. They never do anything with it. There are plenty of websites that allow you to do this, that you can upload a design, sell it, no problem. But here, there is zero human connection, and this would not be allowed on Etsy. It would be against their terms and services because you haven't actually done anything. You purchased a piece of artwork. You didn't take the artwork and do anything with it. You didn't modify it. You didn't change it. You simply photoshopped it onto an image of a t-shirt, and now you're using POD. And this is what I go back to again with the whole TikTok, like, make a quick buck, and it's messed up and it's not right. The issue is though, Etsy can't and won't be able to weed out every single one of these listings. So what happens? People's listings, people's shops get taken down unfairly when they weren't even doing anything wrong in the first place. I was selling a 3D printed item that I designed and print myself. Etsy deactivated the listing, saying that it is not handmade by me. I put in a support ticket with pictures of the item in my software, and I will be also submitting a time lapse of the item being printed by my printer. Is there anything I can do? Someone said, I went through the same thing with my handmade dice sets. I was selling one set each 2 to 3 days, so I decided to make different models and post all of them in my store. Fast forwarding a few months, the customer tells them that the exact same dice were found on AliExpress. I checked the link he sent me, and it was indeed my dice. Literally, my pictures with my background, my plants, my desk, etc. I didn't do anything about it though. A few weeks later, Etsy started removing their listings because they were not handmade. Each time that happened, I recreated the listing and moved on with my life. My listings would stay alive for 1 to 2 weeks before just getting removed again. They then got a notification that their star seller badge had been removed and it was their final warning before being banned. All because one of these companies kept stealing their product images. It sounds like they would use this person's listing photo and probably recreated a really bad version of their dice. How infuriating. Like, this person must be so angry, I can't even imagine. I contacted their support, and after a month-long fight with them, after sharing videos of me making the dice, me proving I had the original pictures, non-edited, they gave me back the badge and removed the final warning after 1 more month of back and forth emails. How messed up is that? It took them more than a month to get this all straightened out and sorted out. Etsy reduced their staff by 200 people. They let go 200 people, and now most of it is automated. So there's less people that can help them. Things are more automated now, which means more things are getting taken down accidentally or like being mistaken because Etsy's trying to sort of fix this issue. But then there's less people to help with it because of the AI messing up. What saddens me is it's not worth for me to go through all of the effort of taking professional quality photos if they're just going to be stolen, meaning I have to retake new ones. So I feel like my shop quality is worse now due to this. I didn't even think of that. Sellers are using my photos on Temu, AliExpress, other sites like that, Amazon, and even Walmart. It stresses me out beyond belief and makes me just want to stop altogether sometimes. I didn't even consider Etsy thinking they aren't handmade, even though they've been listed since 2020. I went through this to a lesser extent with TikTok. I literally posted a short of me painting my Starry Night mural in my closet, right? Like, my face wasn't in it, but my hand was. Someone posted my video to TikTok and Instagram. Instagram took it down pretty quickly. TikTok would not take it down. They said that I had to prove that I was the creator of this video. I sent them my main video, like the long form video I did making it. I sent them the link to my original post of it. They still said that they couldn't prove that it belonged to me. It was my freaking hand in it. Screw you, TikTok. Seriously, I could make a whole rant video about TikTok too. And another one. I made a necklace years ago that I continue to make as it sells well. About a year ago, I found pictures of the necklace on AliExpress. Someone had stolen my photos and made a cheap version of my necklace. I contacted the AliExpress seller and asked them to take down my photos, which to my surprise, they did. This wasn't the only seller using my photos though. There are at least 6 other sellers using my photos with a cheap version of the necklace. 2 days ago, Etsy removed my listing under the impression that it was not a handmade item. I contacted support about it but haven't heard back. I relisted the necklace and they just removed it again. What can I do? It's all handmade. I can even take a video of myself making it if needed. I am annoyed. So this is another issue altogether, is people's products they're actually making getting ripped off, stolen, recreated badly, and then the Etsy sellers are getting penalized because the Etsy AI system has decided to I just found it on the internet, so it must not be handmade. This is something that people are doing. People with genuinely not handmade are posting them on websites, then posting them on Etsy. So it's really hard for these people to just prove that it's theirs. While Etsy is trying to clamp down on it, it's the people doing it in the first place that are messing it up for everyone else. I love supporting artists and thought I was buying a handmade silver ring for $100 from an artist in California. My fault for not image searching on Google, but after waiting 6 weeks for the unique ring to be made, my ring arrives from overseas in India, and when I searched online, I found the exact same ring and photo being sold for $15 to the $60 on Etsy. I reached out to all the sellers, and one admitted they were made in a factory in India. I left a review noting how disappointed I was about being lied to, and that the ring was not made by the artist locally. No response. And this is so freaking sad that this is happening, because there are genuinely good people on Etsy who are just trying to sell their handmade products, and when they find success, and it does really well, guess what happens? Someone copies it, someone rips it off. AI pulls it down, and speaking of AI, this is probably the most infuriating part of this entire video. So this is actually on the Etsy terms of service. I can't quite believe it, but this is what it says. After carefully considering the complex issues surrounding AI-generated content, we have decided to continue to allow sellers to use their original prompts, in combination with AI tools to create the artwork they sell on Etsy. Permitted examples of this might include a fantasy scene based on a seller's original prompt or inputs, aka you typed in fantasy scene, create a fantasy scene with a red dragon, or a custom portrait of a buyer's pet generated using AI tools. Sellers must disclose within their listing description if an item is created with the use of AI. We believe this decision aligns with our values of supporting artists through the evolution of art. However, we also understand that there are important ongoing conversations regarding the training of AI models, including ethical questions about the use of copyrighted works and concerns about mitigating bias and negative environmental impacts. Okay, so Etsy, the home of the handmade, supporting AI to be used in creations with people's original prompts. They believe that it has a place, and we believe this decision aligns with our values of supporting artists. What the fuck? Okay, Etsy, the home of the handmade. It's our mission to keep human connection at the heart of commerce. This is literally on the seller handbook. No artist anywhere would agree that AI art is supporting artists. AI can be good. It can be good in the sense of you can use it as a reference. AI should not be making art for us. This is my personal opinion and the opinion shared by the majority of other artists. I've honestly seen people try to defend AI artists or AI artists defending themselves by saying, well, it took me hours to get this exact image. It took me hours of modifying it. It's a real craft trying to modify this image. That's creative in a sense, but you did not physically make that artwork. Where I have a problem is seeing artists who spend hours on their artwork, days, weeks on their artwork, only to get replaced by AI who does it in seconds. That's what I have a problem with, especially with Etsy saying that it's okay. It's totally okay. It's totally okay for you to use AI with your own prompts to make someone's dog. You go onto Etsy, it's oversaturated with, oh, let's make your dog. And I'm not going to pinpoint which ones I think here are AI, but I think it's kind of obvious when you actually look on Etsy which ones are generated by AI and which ones aren't. Simply by the timeline to say, oh, we'll get this back to you in 24 hours. No artist can do that in 24 hours. And you know that's AI, and most of them don't say that it's AI. That's what's disturbing. And the sad thing is, there's so many people doing it that it's pushing out the people that are actually the artists here.
Then came 2023, and honestly, it was one of the toughest years I've had on Etsy. The platform made even more changes that hurt small sellers like me. Fees continued to climb, mass-produced items flooded the marketplace. If you search for puppy prints or nursery art on Etsy now, the first page is flooded with AI-generated listings. My giclée prints, which are more expensive and yes, less perfect because they're hand-painted, simply can't compete with that.
It's oversaturating the market to the point where people are just not even getting sales anymore because AI is taking it. And why else is this an issue? If you don't want to consider the fact that the AI is pushing out the actual listings because there's so many now, normal people that don't really appreciate artwork or just want something that looks like artwork, who is going to spend $200 to have an artist actually draw your dog that you then wait a few days or weeks for, when you could go to Etsy, pay $15, $20 for an image of your dog and get it back in 24 hours. AI programs have literally been proven, and Etsy even says this in their user handbook. AI has been proven to take and look at people's artworks posted online, take them, steal from them in order to use it in their database to generate its own images. AI literally steals from artists in order to learn how to generate an image. How is that supporting artists? How is allowing this supporting the people that created your platform in the first place? I don't understand. The thing that annoys me most is you're supposed to say when something is AI art, yet I have yet to see any listings that are blatantly AI say that they're AI. Also, how can Etsy pledge that it is powered by 100% renewable electricity? Well, that's good, because sellers can take that renewable energy, stick it up their butts, and use it to overly generate way too much electricity using AI instead. So basically it just, balances out, right? Because AI uses a ridiculous amount of power just for one image. From weforum.org, AI systems vary widely in energy consumption depending on their complexity and usage, but generally require significant amounts of electricity to process and analyze data efficiently. AI uses significant amounts of energy. Etsy is powered by 100% renewable electricity. How can you I've seen a lot of these issues. Obviously, things I've talked about in this video are a big part of it, but a lot of people are saying it's since Etsy went public that this has become a problem. Some people are saying it's due to the AI being allowed on the platform, which is blatantly going to be a big issue. In my opinion, it's also related to the fact that people are making those posts about how to make a quick buck on Etsy, and a lot of people are just leaving Etsy because it's too oversaturated now. It's too much. I did watch a video recently. He said that people are kind of being pigeonholed into having to offer free shipping.
Etsy has been silently forcing sellers to offer free shipping on orders over 35 bucks. Sounds good in theory, right? Everyone loves free shipping. Well, here's the thing. Starting in 2019, if you don't opt into the $35 free shipping deal, Etsy's algorithm will punish you by making it harder for your products to show up in the search results.
And if they don't offer free shipping, obviously the listings that do offer free shipping are getting pushed more than the ones that aren't offering free shipping. And some people just can't afford to do that. People say that the Etsy algorithm has changed, which doesn't surprise me. Like, algorithms are always changing. Like YouTube, the amount of times the algorithm has changed on us, Instagram. And obviously Etsy does also push listings that are advertised. Like, I've paid for advertisements on Etsy myself just to see like how it goes. I would sell a handful of stickers based on these advertisements. So yeah, Etsy pushes those too. They basically will prioritize whoever's going to make the money most, and that's unfortunately just the way of the world. Businesses will do that. They'll push whatever is going to make the most money. Etsy kind of allowed people to have a place to sell, to have that sort of, have a little bit of a podium to stand like, this is my art, you can buy it if you want to. They had a chance at being seen, and it's just so damn sad that that's not the case anymore. There is an upcoming platform. It's been open, I want to say, maybe a couple of years now. Michael's Maker Place. Michael's is the arts and crafts store. They don't agree with AI art in the sense of they want people to go buy their physical products, but they started this platform called Michael's Maker Place. It's not on the scale of Etsy. For transparency, I was once involved in helping like make a place. Like, I answered questions about it and like what I liked or didn't like about it, and they paid me to promote it on Instagram a couple of times. So I'm curious if that is going to be a platform that's kind of like the new Etsy. I don't know. I think it's worth checking out. They don't have a huge amount of people or products on there just yet compared to Etsy for sure. If you are like a small business, check it out. I know at one point they were requiring like you to have like a tax ID number, like an LLC or something. I'm hoping maybe something will happen with that will be a good solution to Etsy. We'll see. I might explore it a little bit more in the future, but for now, check it out, see if it works for you. So yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say for now. I really hope that Etsy does choose to change back to how they used to be a little bit more. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. This was a very, very long one, but I really hope that you enjoyed it regardless. Let me know if there's something in detail you'd like to see me talk about in the future, because I really enjoy doing these kind of deep dives into companies and brands and things like that. So yeah, for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I really, really hope that you enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.